Brian
Yeah.
Espinoza will not be seen tonight.
So we bring you this gimmick infringement.
Can I introduce the show before we start the infringing?
I mean, we got it out of the way, so...
Good evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to be listening and or watching, of course. And welcome to Life is Like a Game Show. Gameshow Marathon, The Price is Right. I'm your host. I am the voice of reason, allegedly. My name is Harry Broadhurst. I am now joined, as you guys can see, by Sammy, the S&P Sloth, for the Not a Network Podcast Network. Joining me, as per usual, the HNIC of the NANP, and he is the anchorman, Eric Watkins.
You know, doing the research for tonight, I have so many feels. I'm going to leave it at that.
And the man behind the Nielsen Report, I am not dubbing you that because that just encourages you to do more of them, and we will not be having that on this podcast.
Oh, I might have to put a paper bag on my face. Wrong show.
Listen here, Lions fan. Knock it off!
Look, you can ask him if he has a nickel. That might be something that he can use as an item up for bids.
I hate both of you already, and we just started.
Well, this show's off to a gong start.
He is Jonathan Nielsen.
So, yeah, Gameshow Marathon. Divided opinions are divided. I'll leave it at that for now.
And tonight we are talking about the first of the 7 editions of the Gameshow Marathon to crown a celebrity champion. As I'm going to need some help here. Paige Davis, Brandy Roderick, Tim Meadows, Leslie Nielsen,
Kathy Najimy.
Kathy Najimy, and who's the other dude?
Lance Bass?
Lance Bass from NSYNC. Thank you.
Yes.
All participate in The Price is Right. Your original 4 are all except, I believe Davis comes down after Najimy goes on stage, and I believe Leslie Nielsen replaces Paige Davis, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
And then, because Paige Davis plays the third pricing game. Spoiler alert. Oh, wait, that's on Wednesdays. Never mind.
Wrong show.
Now, cheap plug. Much like this cheap plug for EJ's Collectibles, LLC. Available on eBay at stores.ebay.com/EJ's Collectibles, LLC.
Eating on Air is also a network.
So, Gameshow Marathon was a 2006 presentation on CBS with an attempt to bring current and classic game shows into the forefront. I'm sure the official Wikipedia master will have things ready. The Not a Credible Academic Resource master will have that ready for the overall description behind Game Show Network, and then we can kind of give you the who's its and the what's its of the Price is Right edition. Mr. Nielsen, whenever you are ready for the non-credible academic resource, we can get started on that by telling everybody exactly what we're looking at with Game Show Marathon, the people behind it, the reasons it's happening, and what we will be specifically covering tonight with The Price is Ricky?
Yeah. These 7, count them, 7 parts begin with The Price is Right. The series Game Show Marathon, presented by one Ricky Lake, starring Lance Bass, Paige Davis, Tim Meadows, Kathy Najimy, Leslie Nielsen, and Brandy Roderick. It all starts at Stage 46, Television City in Hollywood, where all those people got to come on down, and only 3 got to escape Contestants Row, as was alluded to earlier. Your rule changes for this edition. First, Plinko was played for $100,000.
Instead of 50, as was traditional.
This was the case for the prime time specials that were running in the same year. instead of 6 games played on the stage, you had 3. 3 with the number of pricing games played. No more, no less.
I feel like there's a Sesame count joke there somewhere.
No.
3.
No. 5 is right out. Now go away, I shall taunt you with a classic British comedy reference a second time.
Again, referencing British shows, I'm not going to catch
Monty
it.
Python reference connected, not. Okay.
Not with him, it didn't. I got it entirely.
Never seen a single Monty Python movie.
But then again, I am someone who always looks on the bright side of life. But before you go on, I've got a little bit of an announcement to make. Brian Espinoza, come on down. You will be the 4th host on tonight's episode of Life is Like a Game Show.
He will be seen tonight.
Yes, of course. You're all going to be subjected to the life of Brian.
I think that's a no.
Well, guess what, bitches?
Shit, mutter.
Other notable change was in the show a showdown. Eric, you know what they did to change the league.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically there were a couple of changes during the regular play of the game show itself as well. First of all, hole in 1 or 2 was just hole in 1, as Kathy Najimy did not get a second putt.
Or, in the interest of time, a missed second putt was not aired. That has been done in the show in years past.
Well, you have the non-credible academic in front of you. Is that the case, or did they just not give her a second? I mean, Najimy had a broken foot, so her having to stand on it through a pricing game that is played on broken toe.
My research did not confirm nor deny such an allegation.
Yes, Mr. Espinoza.
Unless somebody else's research did.
No, that is the please hold. I'm researching it because I know the one place where it'll be, and I'm checking it as we speak.
So
right,
he has research face.
So while he does that, let's go ahead and go back to the conversation here. Yeah. So the first item up for bid was the trampoline basket game, and that was won by Kathy Najimy.
It's like $2,000 too. The thing was expensive.
Kathy Najimy, of course, amongst us, probably best known as Peggy from King of the Hill. Also one of the Sanderson sisters, Mary, in the Hocus Pocus. Kathy gets all the way up to the third line from the green in hole in 1, as her I believe it was the laundry detergent was less expensive than the headache relief medication, I think.
The pain reliever, yes.
Yeah, so that put her at the third line from the hole, and she pushes the putt wide right. Shut up, Watkins.
I didn't say wide right.
Shut up, both of you. I saw the gear spinning. Shut up, both of you.
I didn't do this to you. You did this to you.
I was going to see if
the
he was
show
gonna
did this
do
to
it.
me.
But anyways.
And Najimy ends up only winning the overall winning, because she was playing for a car. She ends up only winning the overall value of the trampoline that she had bid in her one bid.
The car cue I did approve of the use of. I forget which one it is. The Big Banana?
It might have been. I'd have to go back and watch.
I'll be honest, I truthfully didn't pay attention.
Mr. Research Face is good at recognizing car cues.
But he's currently busy right now, so let him be. So overall, the playing of hole in 1, I didn't like it. I didn't care for it, and the reason I didn't care for it is because it varied so differently from the standard hole in 1 or 2 that you're used to seeing on the daytime version. Now, I get that they had to cut time in a couple of places for this year because of the super extended ass long intro that the show got. We'll talk more about.
Awkward commercial placements were also awkward. Continue.
Very.
The referee is turning on the mic button here.
Uh-oh.
Interrupting Harry Broadhurst. Go ahead.
We have a scroller, actually.
We can get
We're
rid of the
gonna need it. Go ahead, Mr. Espinoza. What did you find?
Upon further review of the play,
Oh Christ, we're back to the referee gimmick again.
it is inconclusive.
I told you it was inconclusive.
No, it's legitimately inconclusive unless you can get me a copy of Game Show Marathon where the end credits are completely intact and not cut off 3/4 of the way through. I can't verify for sure, but personal bias is leaning in favor of no.
I didn't think so because Ricky kind of said apologies for interrupting you, but
that's okay. I interrupted you and I didn't apologize, so that's on me.
Well, what I was going to say though is it looked like Ricky immediately segued away right into the next one bid, similar to what Drew does on the current daytime edition.
Well, usually, and by usually I mean it's, federally required because of this wonderful thing that exists, right? That, happens to be called 47 United States.
I was trying to shout out the sloth. Sorry.
That happens to be called 47 United States Code Title 509, or Section 509.
Which someone needs to remind Mike Richards about.
Don't say that name.
Yeah, if they pulled that kind of edit, they're required to put a disclaimer in the credits. The normal place where I expect such a statement, as popularly seen as the portions of this program not affecting the outcome of gameplay have been edited, in this case, was not in the usual spot, but with the entire credits not being available, I can't confirm with 100% certainty.
If we can get a studio master, that would also suffice.
Yeah, because I'm going to personally lean towards no because of the heavier amount of pushing things along in the interest of time. I think, hey, fewer edits, the better.
Which also leads me to wonder how come that, when you're as crunched for time as Game Show Marathon was, I would definitely expect to see that statement in the credits. And I didn't, so yeah.
My bigger issue is they waste all these times doing these background pieces, these introductions on pieces on everybody at the top of the show. Let them talk when they get up on stage. If they get up on stage, if you don't make it on stage, you don't get to talk about your charity until the next time that you do. It seemed like I get that it was done as a fundraiser. I understand that, and yes, they were playing for people at home as well, including the win at home game with the price of the 1972 Camaro. I get that. I do. Yes, I actually went back and did the research for the show and watched the episode.
More on the Camaro later.
Swear to God, Nielsen. Anyways, the point being is you would think that with the limited amount of time that they had in order to make this happen, that they would have focused solely on the gameplay and solely on the game show that they were playing in an attempt to make it seem like the gameplay, the game show itself was the star and not the people that we brought up as to be the contestants here. Because let's be honest here, with the probable exception of Lance Bass, NSYNC was still a pretty big deal in 2006, having debuted in the late 90s. Everybody else at this point is more or less persona non grata in terms of mainstream television.
I'm partially going to disagree, especially with...
Paige Davis had Trading Spaces.
And Tim Meadows was still right there along with the SNL cast and the Ladies' Man, so...
Okay, Ladies' Man sucked, and we both know it.
Could have been done better and more faithful to the SNL segments. I will agree.
Yeah, like that's. There have been really good SNL transitions to movies. I don't think The Ladies' Man was one of them. Conversation for a different show.
True.
Let's get back to it here. So, I do think that they took too much time focusing on the people rather than the game itself. And hopefully this does not become a pattern throughout the course of Gameshow Marathon, because if it does, I will get really, really, really agitated about that.
And especially with The Price is Right in particular, because you're talking 2006, and we all know Price is Right still in something of a heyday at that time. So if you're watching this on Gameshow Marathon, you know how Price is Right normally goes.
This is Bob Barker at Price is Right now. In fact, I think Bob Barker just recently releases his book, Priceless Memories.
I was actually just about to say what Brian said, but I was going to use the official way that it was phrased. Tonight for one night only, filling in for Bob Barker is Ricky Lake. So it's definitely the Bob Barker era of The Price is Right still. I believe Barker doesn't step down until 2009.
Yes.
Stepping into the shoes of legendary host Bob Barker. I still have my script from last week.
I paraphrased. The point being, though, you
don't always have to be technically correct.
That is the best kind of correct, however. All right, let's move forward here. So moving on to our second pricing game. They play Plinko with Paige Davis. And Paige Davis wins everybody in the audience a $99 MP3 player, which is your sign of the times for this particular episode, because that same MP3 player these days would be like $5.
That particular one, because it's a cheap knockoff, you probably find it at the dollar bin in the Five Below.
Not to mention, there's also that whole, your cell phone is basically an MP3 player nowadays. Back then, not so much.
Yeah, this is just before the iPhone comes out.
And the advent of basically pocket computers masquerading as cell phones.
You know, it's funny. We talked about that on a show around here recently.
So we can plug our shows later, please, and thank you. Let the host finish.
I wasn't plugging a show.
That was my neener. Finish eating your dinner. You're cranky when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers. Wow, rage quit. Get him back here.
Be careful, there'd be drop zones right there.
Okay, that works. Anyways, he's probably finishing his dinner, actually. Anywho, back to what I was going to say. So, Paige Davis plays Plinko, and Paige Davis plays Plinko for, as Jonathan mentioned a little bit earlier, a chance at $100,000 instead of $50,000, which was the traditional daytime version. The pricing only in the center was doubled, however. The three outside slots remained the same at $100,000, $500,000, and $1,000, and then the two zeros in between the $20,000.
But she only got 4 chips.
Right, and she only won $2,100. A 1, a 5, 1,000, and a 5. So she hit money on all 4 drops. She just never hit she never hit the big prize. Our third and final pricing game, which was played by Brandy Roderick, was don't tell me. Race game. Thank you. It took me a second to get there. But that was also edited from the daytime version of the show as well. Because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, the daytime version of the show doesn't have 6 prizes?
No, only the 4, because you got to keep going back and forth, and you only get the 45 seconds.
So then which one am I thinking that has 6? Like, isn't there one of those kind of pricing games that's set up like that has 6 prizes? Maybe it's the matching one where you have to pick the 2 that have the same price?
Yes, where you have to pick. Yeah,
like you have the slot thing that you pull out, and as soon as Drew pulls out the slot, it shows the price of that prize. And then he pulls out another slot, and then you can keep one of the ones you selected, or you can change them. You can put them both back and try 2 different ones.
The price is the same, or along those lines. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my apologies. I did get that incorrect. I do.
Newfangled pricing game is newfangled.
I'll find out the name of that game and I'll have it for everybody next week if you don't already know it. I'm sure there are people listening to this that know these games in and out and are like, you idiot, Broadhurst, that game is... Hate
there
mail.
are those levels of fans of this show.
Hate mail, hebtheeagle@yahoo.com. You're welcome. Scroller coming now.
Okay, what is my Price is Right expertise needed for now?
The game with the 6 prizes that's set up similar to Race Game, where you have to pick the 2 that have the same price.
Pick a pair.
Pick a pair. Thank you. No, that's the grocery items, isn't it?
Yes, but that's the one that you're thinking of. Pick a pair.
Isn't there also like a full-sized prize version of that as well?
You might be thinking a Danger Price.
No, that's the one
No,
where you
that's
have to
what I'm
avoid
for.
picking the one that has the exact number. We referenced that last week on the podcast.
No, I think Eric's right. I think you're thinking of Pick a Pair.
Maybe, and I'm just imagining. Maybe, and I'm just imagining it as a larger version than what it actually is.
I'm
Yes,
going into research mode.
Because I know exactly what you were talking about, because you have to pick a pair of products that have the same price.
Okay, I know that one had 6. I thought Race Game had 6, but apparently Race Game
Nope.
does only have 4. I apologize for that. My mistake.
A pair has a set of 6 prizes. It premiered it. Oh, God, I was incorrect. Newfangled, not at all. Premiered April 12th, 1982.
I was going to say Pick a Pair is very classic Bob Barker.
Yes.
The first carry version was October 19th, 2007, aired out of order November 20th.
So, all right, back to Race Game real quick that Brandy Roderick played. Brandy won 2 of the 4 prizes, being allowed to switch her last 2 price tags after the timer expired because she had them in her hand already, something that, if I'm not mistaken, would not have flown on the daytime version.
There's another pricing game of a similar nature called Take Two. You might have been confusing this with.
Is that the one where it's 6 prizes on the stage? You pick one and you slide out the price, it lights up on the screen. And then
Yep, that's the one.
There we go.
So you're both right. We're all winners here.
It's like the year-end awards on the BWSR all over again. Again, shills later.
I
Go ahead, Mr. Espinosa. What are you questioning?
Never mind. Don't worry about it. Just let's keep going.
No, I'm genuine. Okay, fine.
I don't think you guys are right, but I'm not going to sit here and argue semantics.
We'll discuss it more off air. And then if deemed appropriate, we will bring the conversation on air next show.
Fair.
Unfortunately, I won all expenses paid out of my own pocket airfare tonight.
All right, so let's get back to it here. So Brandy Roderick plays Race Game, and Brandy wins 2 of the 4 prizes. Correct me if I'm wrong on the thing about it not being allowed to fly during the daytime version, that she was allowed to change prices after the buzzer sounded. Because I'm pretty sure Ricky let her pick up the tag that she had in her hand and put it on the different prize right after the buzzer sounded on Gameshow Marathon.
Usually, if you do have a price tag and only one price tag in your hand, that time runs out, you're allowed to put it where it would have by default had to have gone.
I think Roderick had 2 tags in her hand because she was trying to switch 2 prices, if I'm not mistaken.
Give me a moment as I go to the videotape.
She did, because she was switching one of them with the piano and I believe the cotton candy machine.
No, not the cotton candy machine. The cotton candy machine is one of the 2 that she got right.
So it was the piano and the treadmill.
Yes, the piano and the treadmill on the 2 that were right next to each other on the left side of the stage. Correct.
No, because if it was the 2 that were right next to each other, that was the piano and the sofa.
Then the piano and the sofa were the 2 she changed.
I have it up right now.
Play-by-play.
Let's go to the videotape.
Okay, we've got Paige. She puts the 1408 on the. She goes 1408 and Okay, first attempt. Yeah. First attempt, 30 seconds left. She had one right.
Oh, okay. You did make that change. Come on.
She had both tags in her hand as time had expired.
Two right.
In that case, place what you got in your hands.
Okay, it seems to me you got yourself a cotton candy machine and a piano.
10 seconds left.
There you go.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, you got this.
You want the videotape? There's the videotape.
I appreciate us going to the videotape on occasion on this show. It's helpful for me because my memory is shit compared to what it used to be. I just rewatched this earlier this morning.
And it's nice when we get to review a show that had only one episode.
I mean, it's rare that we do that around these parts, that's for sure.
Yeah, do be facts, though.
He ain't lying. All right, back to it. So,
Hopefully we're not all in the picture.
the non sequitur jokes, sir. Anywho.
Oh, so I get yelled at for the non sequitur jokes after everybody else has had their go.
I yelled at Nielsen too, if it makes you feel any better.
Uh-oh.
We've lost Mr. Watkins for a brief second. Eric Watkins will no longer be seen this evening. Okay, no, he's actually helping Mama Watkins with something. I think he'll be right back.
So, here's my gripe. Because we're at that point in the show. Cut to a whole bunch of people in the audience who are eating cotton candy while they go to the big wheel.
So you know what? Okay, I kind of see where you're going with this, and I have the issue with it as well. That whomever won the wheel spin advanced to the final, and then whoever finished second, be it. So Kathleen and Jimmy was over at the wheel position with 55 cents. Paige Davis didn't beat 55 cents. I think she ended up with exactly a dime between the two spins. She got a nickel both times.
Okay, I'm at the tape. I'm watching the first spin. 35 spins again.
And Jimmy ends up on 55. Paige Davis spins a nickel on back-to-back spins. She ends up at 10. So Brandy Roderick has the next spin.
Question, Mr. Game Show Encyclopedia. Do you ever recall anybody else spinning the double nickel?
Yes.
It's rare, but it happens.
I know of at least one time it occurred I believe it was a late 90s episode. I think it was 98. Saw it on YouTube recently. I've been in a very deep classic Bob Barker kick lately.
I can vouch for that. Very deep.
I approve of classic Bob Barker, Pluto.tv, the Price is Right, the Bob Barker era. Excellent addition to your viewing catalog.
That's that was happening.
Shout outs to YouTube channels Game Show Flashback and Game Shows the letter N Weather. They have a lot of classic Bob Barker Price on there. A lot of them taped originally from the air off of. Hold on, I got to go back and find it because I'm gonna.
Brandy's 55 was on one spin. So they choose to go to the showcase on the tie.
I was getting to that. I had comments. Hold on, please. Go ahead, Mr. Espinoza.
Oh, no, he's fine. I'm trying to look up something now because I don't want to.
All right, so then while he's looking that up, with regards to your statement there, I hated that. And here's why I hated this. One, I get the idea behind having the three girls spin, because they were the three that played pricing games. In my opinion, what they should have done is let the three males spin the wheel as well, and whoever wins the male spin advances to the showcase showdown, advances to the final showcases as well. Why not? I'm listening.
My gripe's a different one. You were spinning the wheel. There was a tie. The home player got gypped, potentially.
I'm going to disagree.
There should have been a spin-off. And if the dollar was hit on the spinoff, that home player was going to get paid cold hard cash.
Was that announced on the show that they were spinning for a home player? Because if, to my knowledge, the only thing that the home player won was the final showcase.
The theme of this event, anything won by the winner is won by the home player instead.
Okay.
Because as they put at the beginning, there's over $1 million in prizes available, and you can win it all.
Okay, so now I understand what you're saying. I get where you're coming from with that, but I do think it was kind of ridiculous to have the tie take both of them to the final showcase.
Because then also you don't have a definitive first place, second place from the wheel.
You go by whoever won. You go by whoever won more during the course of the show, which in that instance there it would have been Brandy Roderick.
But then you're meshing the new rules with the 30-minute era rules. No.
Yeah, with something like that.
Inconsistent rule set is inconsistent. Don't like it.
Nelson's about to get all twitchy like Sin Cara did.
But here's the problem with that, though, and this is why I say, for the sake of simplification, it was the right move. However, if you were looking at it, they were melding the pre or not
75.
Well, I was going to say pre-75, but really 72 to 75 era rules. Then from the post-1975 rules, they were doing that anyway with how the flow of the episode worked. So that was inevitable. Because if you're going to do that with the 3 games, then you don't have a wheel at all.
You weren't here for the earlier part of that conversation there with regards to the price, the wheel spin. I would have had the 3 girls that won go first, and then whoever wins their spin gets first choice in the final showcases, or the final showcase, I guess. No, showcases, because there were 2. And then I would have the guys spin, and then they're the default runner-up. So whoever won the girls spin would get to have first selection, and then whoever won the guys spin would be left with the other of the 2 showcases. So that way you give all the charities a chance to participate for an opportunity at the final showcases.
But
remember, the value won by all of these participants was going to be donated in cash to their respective charities.
Only the winner.
Only the overall winner?
The whole show, yes.
Well, that's bullshit.
So this is why I say they handled that the right way.
It's called the Summer CBS Special that also doubles as a quick, cheap tax write-off. Because we need ratings, and if we can take a tax write-off at the same time, then so be it.
I also stand by my bullshit sentiment.
So with that,
I'm not saying it's not bullshit. I'm telling you what the reality of the situation was.
That's fair.
And if you're going to have all of them and say, oh, well, they didn't even participate, even with under those means, you would have had people crying foul. So the fact that they only had the 3 pricing game winners have a shot at the wheel, that was fine by me.
Because, this is technically still a game of chance. So it's also... they're having to not run afoul of 47 USC 509 because of the fact that they have the play from home aspect to it.
They're still subject to S&P.
Exactly. So
I
while I don't like
with that all said,
from the wheel, I get it.
So with that said, as I said before, shout out to Game Show Flashback and Game Shows and Weather. If you want to watch Classic Price is Right as it was broadcasted on the air from KFDA in Amarillo, Texas, that's your channel.
Amarillo.
Are we not? Hold on. I have a question I have to ask you off air about that.
Yeah, no, almost all of the recordings, the videos on YouTube from the VCR tapes always open up because apparently that's what that affiliate did, is This is KFDA. Please support your local translator service. A translator in television parlance is effectively a repeater. KFDA Amarillo covered like 3 different states. Their signal, through the use of like 20 different television repeaters, extended all the way out to southwestern Kansas, well beyond their 75.6 mile market area.
So translator, not necessarily language translator.
Not language translator, signal translator.
I'm just glad that we didn't press the button. That was not your cue to press the button.
There is one honorable mention I do have to give to the Showcase Showdown segment into the actual showcase. The panning of the camera, you do get a nice shot from a side view of the wheel that you don't normally see on The Price is Right. Because that
for me, the
awkward stage transition.
For me, the mind-blowingest thing that I saw was when they actually when I saw the behind-the-scenes documentary, and you basically saw that the back of the wheel design is just a bunch of boards and wood put together in order to keep the staging in place. Like, there's nothing fancy to it at all. The front of it is super gussied up for television, but the back of it is generic woodwork 101, basically.
Oh,
that's pretty. Design? I was going to say that's literally all of the set pieces on The Price is Right. There's been a couple times where you've seen on television, like they had to turn. You get Bob Barker and Roger Dobquitz come out and have to turn around the Secret X.
Get out of my head.
Stop interrupting me. You get them to come out and they have to turn around the Secret X, and you literally see like sandbags, unpainted or weird color painted wood. There was one time, oh God, I forget what pricing game it was. Double Prices. It was Double Prices because it was a car, and they had one of those tiny little, price tag stands. And something happened, and the thing wouldn't come out, and for whatever reason, the bottom of Double Prices, the sign tag stand broke, and you see a sandbag, 6 rolls of different color gaff tape, duct tape, come rolling out from underneath. They gussy up the front, but the back is all business. And there are actual episodes of The Price is Right where you do get that, fancy side wheel pan thing. Look at the Bob Barker primetime specials from the 80s where there was no commercial break before they went to the wheel. It was pricing games straight into wheel spin. And on at least one of those, there was a side pan shot of the wheel to revealing the contestants as Bob and the third contestant walk over.
Be an interesting thing to have to go check out. I mean, obviously, I enjoy going back and watching the old game shows and stuff on YouTube. I mean, the legalities aside, your opinion on that may vary. We'll talk about that another time here, I'm sure. But one of the cool things about video sites such as YouTube, such as the Daily Motion and everything like that, is the ability to go back and relive classic moments and montages that are no longer available in the regular public periphery. I think for somebody like myself, who is a game show watcher, but not necessarily a game show fanatic. I'm somebody who watches when I can on a somewhat regular basis, but I don't have the level of knowledge that Mr. Nielsen, Mr. Watkins, or Mr. Espinoza do. Going back and seeing shows that I may have missed in the past, going back and reliving shows that I enjoyed when I was younger, these kind of resources are incredible for that. Same with being a fanatic sports fan, such as I am, going back and watching old games from the 70s and 80s and stuff from Major League Baseball and the NBA and the NFL and stuff on sites like YouTube as well. It's cool because of I'm guessing it has something to do with a statute of limitations for rights and stuff. But imagine is why they're able to put that stuff on there.
It's more of a lack of rights enforcement from the IP holders.
So more of a case of like the sporting companies themselves don't fight it because what's the point?
Yeah, replay value of game shows is low.
Replay value of game shows is low, as evidenced by, well, frankly, Game Show Network.
But I was going to say though, you still got channels like Buzzer, you still got channels like Game Show Network, you still got things like the all game shows all the time networks on things such as Pluto and Tubi TV. So I mean, I think that there's value in the content there. I just don't think it's
but look at it this way, right? And I don't want to go too crazy poetic on this topic, but
right, we'll move on after this.
For 95% of game shows, there is no replayability there. The 5% that have replayability are the shows that are currently on air. And it usually, that replayability ends up coming as an initial burst of curiosity, intrigue, research, whatever you want to call it, when a show is announced to be revived. Yes, there are channels, there are networks out there that cater to game show content 24/7, but go and look at a history of Game Show Network that's been on the air since, 1994, I believe it was?
Mid-90s for sure. I remember us looking this up on the last broadcast we did, talking about the GSN original.
There have been, and that's my point. You're getting right into my point. Game Show Network, in order to keep itself afloat because of the low replayability value of game shows and the availability of rights to broadcast television, there's not a lot out there. See, the other thing that you have to realize is if Joe Blow uploads a VCR copy of a Price is Right episode from 1994, the only person that can do anything about it is Fremantle, right? Because Fremantle are the rights holders. For that same episode to get cleared to air on television, not only does Fremantle has to pay out an arm and a leg, and residual checks get cut to at least 60% of the staff on that episode, ranging from anywhere from 0.75 all the way up to 6% of, generally speaking, the ad revenue from that show under either IATSC, SGA, or...
you mean SAG, Screen Actors Guild?
No, Screen Guild Writers of America, and SAG, or SAG-AFTRA. There's a lot of people that get, albeit a small one, but they still get a piece of a pie out of something getting cleared on television. Because I talked to Harry off air about this earlier. I mentioned I went down to Craig Ferguson Hall. Well, that wasn't only on YouTube, that was also on Wikipedia, and I ended up stumbling across the Screenwriters Guild of America's strike back in 2006. Which
the writer's strike, yep.
Got me reading about residual pay and, specifically new media pay for screenwriters and how they went up from 1.75% to 3%.
Well,
and how SAG has similar provisions, AFTRA has similar positions, IATSC has similar, so it doesn't hurt for Mantle because they don't have to pay for this shit to exist on YouTube. Right?
It's more of a way to get their older shows back into the public perception again, whereas having the replays on television networks costs them actual currency based off of what they make from the licensing rights.
Right. And, in these licensing rights, I guarantee you that these, networks that are springing up like Pluto, like Buzzer, etc., Buzzer is wholly owned by Fremantle, right? And their SVOD / terrestrial TV, right? They're broadcasting over the air OTA. They're SVOD / OTA, right? They're over the air and they're
like one
streaming
of those
video on demand.
One of those like digital antenna channels, you mean?
Yeah. And on top of that, they're a sub-carrier channel that's only carried in certain markets, so they're not even national. So
we don't get it here.
That plays into, I think they're only in like 15 markets.
And it's their own dang network.
Yeah, Youngstown is not one of them. I've checked before. Cleveland is, ironically enough. Youngstown is not.
Tampa Bay is, but for whatever reason, Bright House won't carry, or Spectrum won't carry them on cable boxes, or and in their cable lineup for the Tampa Bay market. Don't know why.
Your oddities are peculiar.
I don't think we have it on Spectrum up here in Youngstown either, to be fair.
But there is a lot more at play than people realize when it comes to putting classic game shows on air, which is why some IP rights holders are like, you know what, this is going to cost us more than it's worth to attempt to enforce copyright. Now, if you go and upload yesterday's Price is Right to YouTube, yeah, you're probably going to get hit because they want to drive those ads, that ad revenue, that website traffic to their website or video on demand for your cable or television provider.
Not to mention the fact that, not to mention Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal also stream same day on Paramount as well.
That's my point, is they want people to go to the places where they can charge to see that content.
Right.
If the content is available somewhere where it can be charged for, then
you're getting hit with a copyright claim.
Yeah. But otherwise, they don't care. Generally speaking, they don't care.
Go ahead, Mr. Nielsen.
Two things quickly. CBS and Paramount are one and the same.
I am aware of that.
Number two, gentlemen, most of us are friends with loyal friend and true and former announcer of The Price is Right, Randy West. How many times has he posted to his Facebook those like 1 or 2 cent residual checks? It costs more to mail than they're worth. Speaking of residuals and such.
You mentioned residuals. It's similar for wrestling too, with like wrestling merchandise. So it makes sense to me that game show participants, specifically editors, script writers, and stuff like that, are probably still getting a cut of all of these shows down the road as well.
I mean, it's a very subset of people, but yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if Dobquits was getting a residual check. I mean, we know the announcers get residual checks. Pretty much anybody with personality rights.
Rise of State's probably still getting them.
With that being said, let's get back to the actual episode of Gameshow Marathon. The Price is Right here. Let's talk about the two showcases. As soon as Mr. Nielsen finishes chewing, excuse me.
Well, once you're done with that, I actually have a news desk for us related to The Price is Right.
All right, we'll get to that in a second here. So there are two showcases. I was going to let you handle that since you're Mr. Wikipedia down there and you have the actual descriptions pulled up in front of you. I do not. And my memory for... Okay, he doesn't have the descriptions pulled up.
I actually don't, because my secondary screen is currently sitting on what is the price of a Camaro in 1972?
All right, so then let me try to...
off of that. I'll put that on air myself.
Let me try to remember the showcases then. If I recall correctly, Brandy Roderick's big prices were a boat and a trip to Australia, which apparently she thought she had to take a boat to Australia because Brandy's blonde.
Bob Barker's not amused, please.
That's here. I know it's here.
Please, that's warranting it.
For Brandy? Or for me.
Oh, for Brandy.
No,
About
Brandy
that,
definitely did. Well, pull up BWSR real quick and find Bob Barker's Not Amused because it's deserved. Because
We have it
seriously,
here in Life is Like a Game Show. It was created for Life is Like a Game Show. Unless somebody deleted it.
There we go. Yeah, there's a barbecue. Wait a minute.
I cannot hear you, Nielsen, at all.
Hang on.
he's in his own bit of research phase.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I thought I saw a coat up for in the.
No, you would not
so
have.
I was like,
You
wait
did not
a
see
minute,
that.
that's not supposed to. No. Bob would not approve.
Bob would have blocked it. Bob would have blocked the show from going on air.
Outdoor furniture set. We got a barbecue. Got a jacuzzi. Boat.
And a trip to Australia.
Last minute travel and Australia.
Whereas go ahead.
Bid $25,000.
$25,000. Yes. Kathy, the Jimmy Showcase, folks. Kathy, the Jimmy Showcase had a pair of vehicles, the same vehicle. What was it? 25 years apart, 30 years apart. A 76 and a 2006, I think it was.
Starting with a jukebox.
Yes. Then it was a Dodge something or other, if I recall correctly.
Some arcade cabinets.
Mm-hmm. He's watching on YouTube as we're having the conversation. That's it, a Ford Mustang, and then it was the current edition of the Mustang as well.
2006 Mustang.
Yes.
Which gets the what? Help me name that pricing. They name that cube. The usual car one.
What usual car one? There's like 4 that are in rotation.
Anywho, the point being...
Hold on, let me fucking go watch it now.
The point being is that Kathy Najimy was playing for a pair of cars and a couple of other things as well. And her bid was $81,000.
To quote a pricing game, that's too much! I mean, I remember watching this originally, like, what are you smoking, $81,000?
I mean, the current Charger back then was probably a $25,000 car, but yeah, overall going up to $80,000 for it was way on the high side. I agree.
Even at that time, $1 million specials didn't get that crazy.
John,
no.
Your game show card has been revoked.
I sense chicanery afoot with him listening to the music cue.
I am not a...
Expand.
The 06 Mustang car cue was the MGHS theme.
We will talk about this off air.
How do you not recognize the MGHS theme?
For 13 hours.
Some was covering it.
That's appropriate. We're moving on.
I'm good.
Give
No
Harry a
monkey.
monkey.
Unnecessary.
Totally necessary. We get to talk about Gilbert Godfrey next week on this show.
All right, back to it here. So the prices come back. Brandy Roderick is a little over $18,000 under what the value of her showcase was. And as anticipated by literally everyone, Kathy Najimy went over. So the first person going to the semifinal round of Game Show Marathon is former Baywatch babe Brandy Roderick. And to remind you all, help control the pet population. Please have your pets spayed and neutered.
So in true Barker style, and for everyone here at Game Show Marathon, I'm Ricky Lake saying, help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Good night.
Now's your chance to win everything Brandy Roderick won in tonight's episode. Just answer this question. What was the price of this Camaro on The Price is Right in 1972? 1, $3,621. 2, $5,295. 3, $6,750. Text in the number the correct answer to 22788 by midnight tonight. Everyone who answered correctly will be entered into a random drawing. If we draw your name, the Game Show Marathon truck may be making a special delivery to your home soon. 99 cents per text message. Only the correct answer to tonight's trivia question will qualify for entry. For free method of entry and official rules, go to www.cbs.com/GameShowMarathon. You must be at least 21 to enter. Entries for tonight's episode will be accepted until midnight Pacific time. Log out.
And we will reveal the answer next week. Dun, dun, dun.
I vote number 2, personally.
I'm spoiled. I admit being spoiled.
I haven't
I've
seen
seen
any
this
of the
before, but I never remember the fucking answer, so I'm going with 3.
Mr. Watkins?
I'm gonna go with number. I'm gonna say the hell with it. Go number 1.
All right, so one of us is gonna win. We'll find out who next week, apparently.
Oh, and by the way, to settle your argument, I don't know if you heard it, but Richfield said it clear as day to win everything Brandy Roderick won on tonight's show. To button up that argument from earlier.
Which would be the cotton candy maker, the piano, and then everything in her showcase. Yep. Including the boat trip to Australia. Really, Brandy? Anyways. All right. That concludes the game. Real quick.
Overview. Camaro. Nobody said 6750, number 3, correct?
I did.
So you have one of each?
That's what Harry literally just said, yes.
Making sure.
Back to what I was about to say. So we talked about the gameplay itself. We talked about the celebrities involved itself. Mr. Watkins is apparently staring off into space. You still with us, Eric?
I'm still with you. I mean, y'all have been pretty much taking it over. I've also been keeping tabs on not just everything here, but the 2 cricket tests going on. Continue.
I'm going to go to you with this question here. Stepping into the shoes of Bob Barker, Ricky Lake here. So we saw the first example of Ricky hosting the various game shows here with The Price is Right. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Ricky's performance as The Price is Right guest host?
5. Very middling. Tried to parlay her talk show experience, but it really didn't go over well. I mean, the fact that, again, as I had said in previous instances, stay in your fucking corner.
Finish your statement, Mr. Watkins.
As I had said in previous instances about not having to carry an overall load, they had set it up to where she didn't for price. So, yeah, very mid, very 5.
Mr. Espinosa, what grade would you give Ricky Lake as the host? What grade would you give Ricky Lake as the host of Price is Right here?
I like I said, I just told Eric, get the hell out of my, stay in his damn corner. I also give it a 5. I appreciate that she did the Bob Barker sign off complete with the hand gesture and everything, but I didn't really get a chance to go into this too deep last week, but I mean, I'm calling a spade for what it is. I said it earlier. This is a CBS summer rating stunt. I don't know why the hell Sammy, the S&P sloth,
he's just hanging out. He has nothing to say right now. You're good. Continue.
I mean, that's it. He's
just going back to his spot. That's all.
This is a CBS summer ratings stunt. I have very detailed opinions on Ricky Lake as the host here, which you and I got into pretty good depth off air last night, Eric. And I think I've had this discussion. I know I've had this discussion with John before. I don't know if Eric's heard it, but
We'll do the overarching theme.
all I'm going to say, and stay tuned for our finale to this series, where we'll go into detail on this for sure. But I leave you with the name Garth and Sear.
We did talk about that off air last night, by the way. Mr. Nielsen, scale of 1 to 10 for Ricky Lake as the host of Price is Right.
2006, Nielsen would have given this a 0. However, that is because Price is Right is either Bill Cullen, if you're going in the way back machine, or Price is Right is Bob Barker, period.
Well, you are the old man of the team for a reason.
As I get interrupted. See? Everybody gets hit by it eventually. Since we've now had a Drew Carey, a star of The Price is Right, Drew Carey, a host of The Price is Right, Drew Carey, and have seen pandemic era Price, I could actually give Ricky Lake, I'm going to go halves here, 6.5. It's a D pass. It was good enough. Got the job done. The boxes got checked. The appropriate Barker-isms got said. It passed, but barely.
I don't think it did. I gave it a 3. And the reason I gave her a 3 is I think she tried too hard to capitalize on the history of the show. I think that there is. Hold on, allow me to finish.
That's why I didn't say anything.
I see you shaking your head at me, though.
I can shake my head and be polite and not interrupt you.
I get distracted easily. It happens. Anyways, the point being, going back to what I was saying, the reason I gave her a 3 is I think she tried too hard to hold up the history of the show here. I get the idea behind doing the Barker sign-off. I don't think she should have done it. And the reason I think, because you want to make this as its own standalone, which I understand. You're paying tribute to the history of the show, yes, but you want to make this standalone. You talked about this being Ricky Lake's audition for perhaps a game show hosting job of her own. I don't think she did enough to differentiate herself. I think she just kind of blended into the background. Sure, whatever. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I agree with you, but I think you've got a slightly wrong take. I think it's not. I think she tried too hard to be Bob Barker, not she tried too hard to rest on the history of the show.
Bob Barker is the show, is my point.
At that time, yes.
At that time, yes. At that time, yes.
And Ricky didn't do enough to make it stand out as her own spin on it. She didn't show any kind of personality there. The person who showed the most personality on the show was Brandy Roderick being an idiot asking the question about a boat trip to Australia.
I mean, I'd argue Leslie Nielsen, and Leslie Nielsen just sat there eating a thing of cotton candy, but
Paige Davis did steal his cotton candy, which was very rude of her. Go ahead, Mr. Espinoza.
She checked all the right boxes on how to be Bob Barker, but
wasn't Bob Barker?
The problem is her name is not Robert Barker. She tried too hard to emulate somebody that, quite frankly, she had no business emulating. And I feel like I have to slightly expand on what I said a few moments ago, but Ricky Lake ain't exactly doing herself or the connections and strings that she pulled any favors in doing so.
All right, Mr. Nielsen, you were about to say.
I was gonna say you're throwing the shade in the wrong direction. I think partially, not necessarily. It's Ricky Lake dropping the ball. It's the format of the show and the tweaks that were made. That's where I throw the shade more so than to Ricky Lake.
Okay, and I can understand your point there.
It's like
understand.
the Undertaker trying to wear a size 14 shoe. The man wears a size 15. A 14 ain't gonna cut it.
I can understand.
The reason why I also gave Ricky Lake a little bit of a benefit of the doubt here, right, is if you go and you look at the credits to this show, right, there is one name that is notably absent that should be here.
Dobquits?
Yes.
This did not have the Dobquit seal of approval. No wonder.
It's not even the Dobquit seal of approval. It's literally, this isn't anybody from the original Price cast.
Anybody?
There's nobody from Price Crew. There's nobody from... The executive producer here is Rich DePiro, which, yes, well-known name in game show, but it's not Dobquits. There's nobody. It's not Kathy Greco, not here. Adam Sandler, not the actor, not here. You get a little bit of
background. Harry is humming in the background.
Air conditioning. Harry Broadhurst is air conditioned.
Okay, go ahead and mute me again. I'll turn it off. Give me.
But that's the real problem here, right? Is Ricky Lake tried too hard to be someone who she wasn't and didn't have the right people to make her look that good.
Okay, so I kind of see what Nielsen is saying with regards to putting the issues on Ricky that I had with the show in general. And I guess to an extent I did do that too. The overall presentation, I want to rate that as well of the Game Show Marathon, because we're going to do Game Show Marathon as a whole at the end, but I do want to go episode by episode as well, because I feel it would be unfair to loop everything together when each of the shows are supposed to be their own standalone game show. So, Mr. Watkins, I will once again start with you, and I will ask you, scale of 1 to 10, decimals allowed, what would you give Game Show Marathon, The Price is Right?
4.5. I was originally in my head thinking along the lines of a 6, but as I went down and as I went back in my head, having rewatched it recently, going over all of the different issues, I get what they're trying to do in having it as a curve for a summer ratings boost, for a fundraiser, for a tax write-off, and all this and that. They still could have, had they gone ahead and made the proper investments with the proper producing crew, made it a lot better and would have been able to do it more often rather than just leaving it as the one-off it was. And the more that they did that, the more disservice that they did. 4.5. They left a lot on the table.
Mr. Nielsen, I move to you.
4. Flat. Eric pretty much took most of my points. What they should have done instead of using a show that was currently on air in this situation as the kickoff, no pun intended with the not a network of shows. Seriously, didn't anticipate that. That just was natural. Believe it if you will. Should he stayed with the theme of bringing shows back that are not currently on air so you don't have the issues that Eric discussed.
Mr. Espinosa. You had to know this question was coming.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like Eric could be there with Leslie Nielsen eating the cotton candy right now.
Hey, can't get interrupted if you don't have to say much.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I could go for some cotton candy right about now. Go ahead, Brian.
2.
Ooh. Ouch.
You didn't use any of the original Prices Right staff. It showed because the pricing game selection was lackluster.
Plinko was the only one really that checked the box. Race game, early race game.
Yeah, you've got so many other better options than race game.
If you're gonna play
for celebrity-filled Prices Right.
I feel like if you were going to play a car, you had to play a card game. But I feel like if you're going to play a card game, wouldn't any number have been the obvious choice?
Any number, Lucky 7. Hell, you could have even gone for dice game.
You could have taken a trip down the Golden Road.
Golden Road was too convoluted for what they wanted there. I would argue Lucky.
John, you want me to give it a 0? Have them open on Golden Road. They would have botched it from the word go.
To your point,
I guarantee you, Price staff, like the full-timers, probably came in and set up whatever easiest access, easiest to operate games they had and said, here you go, here's what you do.
Don't break shit.
Don't break our shit.
Okay, so I would say to your suggestion of the other ones there, dice game I will agree with. Lucky 7 is one of the more historically difficult Prices Right games to win. So I would argue that they were trying to go for easier to win games. Although, to be fair, Hole in 1 or 2 is not necessarily a historically easy to win game as well.
Card game. Hell, you could have played Hit Me for the damn car. How difficult is it to play Hit Me? The exact price and the 10 times the exact price items are usually pretty damn easy to pick out. There's been a couple of Hit Me's where they've, been pretty damn clever about it, but generally speaking, Hit Me is a gimme.
All right.
I know that was not supposed to be a pun.
Super Bowl?
No.
Thank you.
The game was too convoluted. Even playing it in the video game format, it's convoluted.
No, you want to talk about a pricing game that was convoluted? Professor Price.
That's also convoluted on the.
It only got played twice for a reason.
Shower game? No, I'm okay. Done.
Fun fact for Professor Price: it actually made its way into Price's Right Decades, the video game.
How am I not? You know what? I'm Brian Espinosa. That's Jonathan Nielsen, Harry Broadhurst, Eric Watkins. Have your pets spayed or neutered?
I mean, if you want to take over as host, by all means.
I got nothing.
All right,
I don't know.
Back to it. Overall, I'm going to give the same show. I'm going to give the show the same score I gave Ricky Lake. I'm going to give it a 3. I was not impressed. As a longtime and admittedly biased fan of The Price is Right, if I am a Price is Right fan watching this, it's an injustice to the game show, especially in the Barker era. Ricky Lake does not stand up to snuff because she tries too hard to be something she's not. And like Brian said, the staff around her do her no favors. The show itself, with the formatting and everything, and only playing 3 pricing games in an hour, that's bullshit. There's no way you can't tell me that they couldn't have figured out a way to get all 6 contestants up on stage to play a pricing game.
Top 3 could have. The problem. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. They could have, but look at how long the commercial breaks were. All of the added extra video package crap that they had to add in with Rich Fields and the Camaro and everything else.
Look at how long Rich Fields' introduction at the start of the show was too.
Again, they knew what they were doing. They wanted to pad for time. They wanted they wanted the prestige of The Price is Right, because 2006, The Price is Right is solidly, firmly unsurplantable as the crown jewel in, CBS's game show programming catalog and Mark Goodson's game show programming catalog, because, it's still Goodson Todman Productions at this time.
If I'm not mistaken, this is right around the time that TV Guide's list of the 100 greatest game shows comes out, and Price is Right is number 1.
You may be correct.
I believe you are correct.
It's right around this time that the TV Guide list comes out, if I'm not mistaken. I know Price is Right is number 1 on that list. I think that's about all we have for this episode, though. We played the clips that we wanted to play. We talked about Ricky. We talked about the show itself. We ran over the prizes and everything. Jonathan, why don't you tell everybody what's coming next week here on Game Show Marathon?
Next week here on Talking About Game Show Marathon,
I regret this decision already.
we have Let's Make a Deal featuring.
So next week on Game Show Marathon, in a not Gilbert Gottfried voice, we have everybody's favorite. Take it away, John, without the voice, please.
Everybody's favorite dealer, Monty Hall, brings his show back. No, it's Ricky Lake again, sad to say. With a very, very big deal. More on that next week. As we move on to Let's Make a Deal.
I wanted to ask you about this, Brian. I know we talked about it off air. I want to know if you have official confirmation. When did the Let's Make a Deal relaunch start with Wayne Brady?
Didn't I look this up last night?
You did, and that's why I asked you if you remembered, and apparently you don't. You're going to look it up again because I see research phase. Mr. Watkins, where can people find you online?
At Squid Sports Head on Twitter, along with a multitude of other shows here on the network.
Mr. Nelson, where can people find you online?
At JTN 2002, and if you're looking for 2009's director of Let's Make a Deal, you're looking at 2009 maybe is the quick.
I was going to say that, but thank you for interrupting me. Or
Sorry,
saying it before I could.
Found it and was already talking.
Where can people find you online, Brian?
At the Andesian.
At HEB the Eagle on Twitter. The show and the network itself can be found at twitter.com/notanetworkpods, twitch.tv/notanetworkpods, youtube.com/@notanetworkpods. For Jonathan Nielsen, Eric Watkins, Brian Espinoza, I'm Harry Broadhurst. You have been listening to Life is Like a Game Show. Game Show Marathon. The Price is Right. We'll see you guys next week for Let's Make a Deal. Talk to you then. Thanks for watching, everybody.